destroyed because of this freak. I won't allow it! These babies just saved this lame fest party!
What's going on? You are listening to ThisWeekinGeek.net. I'm your host, Mike the Birdman, but I'm not alone on this almost getting the spring day. It's the day after St. Patrick's Day, so happy hangover, losers! Or something. Anyway, that's my brother from the city of Kitchener, Ontario, Canada.
Alex, the producer.
Yeah, you know what? It was surprisingly quiet in Guelph. I live right next to a bar, and I didn't hear anything last night, actually. I guess people partied on the weekend, I guess, because you don't want to go into the office covered in unmentionables.
Here we have a big thing on Ezra Street right up at Waterloo because there's the two universities.
Yeah.
They always block off the roads because there ends up being a party of like a couple thousand people and arrests and all that shit. And this year the city had gotten an injunction, which they've done before, but this time they said that they were going to arrest every single person they found. I don't know how you do that when 1,000 people are there and there's only like a couple hundred cops.
Yeah, it's kind of wild like that too, because I saw something similar like that pop up in Guelph. They're like, yeah, we don't want street parties, which again, you can party, just be responsible, as we often say at the end of every show.
It's caused problems, but this year it was apparently not as big of a problem. Like the crowds gathered, but it wasn't like nutty.
Yeah.
Where it was a big problem was during the pandemic. The students, the dumb students, decided we're still going to party, and it was like, no, like you're going to get people hurt for real. And what's crazy is the university, the UW there, is not a party school. It's an engineering school.
Every school is a party school. No, I can tell you that from experience.
No, it's really not.
That honestly surprises me.
It's because it's 90% international students that are here for computer engineering or for mathematics. It's really not like a party school.
Wow.
It truly isn't. Like the vast majority of the students are from China or India. Okay. But across the street is Laurier, which is more of a liberal arts. People go there for like teaching college and different things and business. And that in itself is also surprisingly not a big party school. It's just whatever students are in the liberal arts programs that are not as academically inclined, they tend to run the parties, which is, it's not a ton, but because there's two universities right there, there's enough between them that they have enough for that. And even Conestoga College is not really a big party school. The joke always here was, if you want to go to school and fuck around and not actually learn anything and just be a goof off and go to a party school, everybody here, the joke was go to Guelph. But that was 25 years ago. Everybody was saying,
because like Guelph is like the only party I've ever really seen is homecoming, and other than that, it's relatively quiet. Because I spend a lot of time at the university because that's where I do stuff for CFRU, and it's just like, okay,
the culture has probably changed, but I don't know. There was you because you do stuff there, but like there was a bad reputation for Guelph. We're talking 25 years ago, where the city employed street cleaners to clean up the barf every Saturday morning on the roads.
Delightful.
I'm not joking either. Their entire job was to clean up barf because the downtown of Guelph, this is before you lived there. So
yeah,
I'm giving you some history here, buddy. You would show up in Guelph and all the downtown stores were open till 4 a.m., like all the restaurants, but you couldn't use the bathrooms. They would barricade the bathrooms by
If you can
putting.
believe that, I actually, when I lived in another small town in rural Ontario, yeah, I saw that happen quite often because we
Yeah,
had a problem, we'll say.
I wanted to go to the Subway. I was visiting friends in Guelph, and I went to a Subway at like 11 at night. They're like, "You can't use the bathroom." I'm like, yes, I can. That's the law. You serve food. Not tonight. And they had taken the tables and overturned them in the hallway so you couldn't walk to the bathrooms.
Yep, I saw that happen when I lived in
And
Owen Sound on certain nights, usually Friday, Saturday after the bars closed. But
and I was like, what? And they're like, I'm like, I'm not even a student. Like I was like, I was like 17 visiting friends. And they're like,
mhm,
yeah, you can't. And then you go out the road and people just barfing everywhere, peeing in the
gross.
road. Like it was like what you think of St. Patrick's Day would be like. It was like at every goddamn weekend in Guelph in the late 90s, early 2000s. So I'm going to assume they have completely, like, it's a whole new generation of kids that don't do that.
Oh,
but that
gross.
but that was the reputation. That was Guelph was the party school. And but it's funny. It's like the roles are reversed now, and it's like now it's all over the news that, oh yeah, Ezra Street, everybody knows the party there. It's only for during St. Patrick's Day, not even really on March break, but like it's that, and then you hear nothing about Guelph. It's like what
Yeah.
what has happened to the world? The world is upside down. Dogs and cats, all that stuff.
Anyway, so yes, guys, trying to think of what else to mention. So normally we talk about what we've been doing this week. So I'm in week 2 of house arrest. Not really, my wheelchair is busted, but literally breaking news as of the show is recording. I was in contact with the wheelchair fixer people. The part has been ordered, and hopefully it'll be in next week. So I might get my freedom back
It,
because I have stuff to do.
is it the
And
same part that broke last time?
no, it's the motor. So this is an entire
So
rebuild.
like just like burnt out, or like what, like just.
Yeah, basically, the brushings were a thing and like a bunch of internal stuff. Like I'm very hard on my wheelchair, obviously being a big guy, but not just that. I take my wheelchair on average 15 to 20 kilometers a day. Like I put serious miles on this thing. In
Oh,
fact,
okay.
I think we figured it out. We looked at how far I've traveled in kilometers. I've been to New Orleans and back, is what we were
Oh,
able to
wow.
figure out. So yeah, when I say I'm fucking busy, I'm fucking busy. So we're gonna try and get that dealt with in the next little bit. Hopefully a rebuild won't take too long because I have stuff to do in the next 2 weeks. I have gone out once or twice, but only as far as the parking lot. But I'm doing stuff at the University of Guelph first week of April. So hey, if you're local to Southern Ontario, I'm running games at GriffCon this year. I'm actually going to be running Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition, and I'm actually playing in a game. I'm actually playing in Call of Cthulhu and a Beast Wars game with a gentleman that I normally play with. He always comes to my Transformers games, but this year I'm trying something a little bit different since I do have that Patreon thing that I do, which yes, I'm going to update. I started getting more into D&D stuff, so I've been getting a lot of the books and fucking around with those. So I figure, you know what? Now's a good time. Try out some new stuff. I have a lot of monsters. You will die, but it's been really fun. So other than that, what I've been doing with my time, well, as of this recording, I am working on several shows that I've recorded with Ken and David. So I'm going to be editing those soon. Those will be out whenever Alex gets the release schedules done. But we did record something on Saturday Morning Cartoons, which was a lot of fun. Surprisingly heartfelt discussion, actually. We also talked about franchise fatigue, which was an interesting discussion. It didn't go the way that I thought it was going to, but I'm really glad we had a chance to talk about it. And then what else have I been doing? I've been working on a very big game for review, which Alex will have a review for in this show. And then we're going to have a longer discussion, probably come out next week once people have had a chance to play through the game in its totality. So we will have spoilers for Assassin's Creed Shadows coming up next week, but you are going to hear a review in this show. We're also going to have another samurai themed game. We're going to have Rise of the Ronin that Ken took a look on PC. And then we're going to go to Middle Earth. So before the War for the Ring, we're going to check out Lord of the Rings War of the Rohirrim from Warner Bros. Home Entertainment. But before I throw to our first review, Alex, what have you been up to over the last week?
Uh, oh, dude, Assassin's Creed.
Yeah.
60 some odd hours or more of Assassin's Creed. Uh,
That's all I've seen is.
Beyond that, like I caught up on my TV, the usual stuff that I do in the background, but like it's been mostly that. I've had some headphones and some other things come in that I'm sort of testing and reviewing. So a lot of playing of music and different things. I also have a couple other games that are on the go that I can't talk about just quite yet. But I can say that I've been working on Split Fiction. That's the new game from Haze Light Studios, which is they made It Takes Two, the game that won Game of the Year during the pandemic. This is the game where you probably saw it's co-op only. One person is a writer for fantasy, one person is a writer for science fiction, and they get stuck into their respective worlds within a VR thing, and they have to work together to get their way out. So I've been playing that off and on with my brother because it requires co-op. I should have a review of that soonish, as well as a few other things. I've gotten some movies and stuff for review. I'm also working on a review for the new MLB The Show. Yep. So there's a bunch of stuff on the go, but a lot of my time was taken up with with Assassin's Creed, both fighting with performance issues, but also just enjoying and going through and just clearing the maps. This is probably the longest game I've played in the franchise as far as to completion, because me, if I get bored with something within the first 10-20 hours, I ain't finishing it. So in the past, since I've been working with you, we've received Odyssey and others, and I would get like enough to do the review with you and then go, I'm done. I was not interested. Well, I've gone back, and I ended up buying, because it was on sale for the original or actually like Xbox 360. I bought Assassin's Creed 1 because it was on sale for like $5, like $5 US, I think, and played that through backwards compatibility on my Series X, which was the first time I turned my Series X on in 3 months. Because, I use
mine for Blu-rays.
But there's been nothing coming, right? There's been nothing since Indiana Jones, right? So, so I turned it on, and it had factory reset itself.
What?
Yeah. I turned it on, and it just said you have to sign in and all this, and somehow my data was still on, like the games were still there, but I had to go through the whole setup like I was a brand new owner, and it's like even like using my phone to pair it to my account and all this stuff, and I'm like, what is going on? I look online. Yeah, apparently it's a bug that happens sometimes. Some people will go to bed, they wake up in the morning, and their Series X is no longer activated. And it's like, what? Why is this not known as a bigger issue? Apparently it's a big thing that people have been noticing. And it's like, God damn it, Microsoft, stop fucking up.
Yeah, Jesus, that's annoying.
Because I was like, what? I'm like, I don't want to have to re-download my shit. And then I went, wait a minute, I only have like 3 games on here because there's nothing for me to play right now.
Wow.
I swear, Xbox is, I am probably, without going too much into a rant, I am probably selling my Xbox.
Wow.
Like there's no reason. There's Game Pass, right? Well, guess what? Everything on Game Pass is on PC as part of PC Game Pass. And if I get Game Pass Ultimate, it's like $27 a month now in Canada. And if I want to get it on PC, it's like half that.
Yeah, so, it's kind of not great for Microsoft right now. Let's be real here.
Every single game that they have coming to Game Pass is also on PC for Game Pass.
Yeah.
So I have literally no reason. The only reason I've kept it is for Blu-rays, for UHD discs, because they do Dolby Vision and everything, and which is not done on PlayStation if I play back. So, but like I have decided, I'm saying this right now, I'm on the air. I am probably going to sell my Xbox and my PS5 to get a PS5 Pro, and I'm going to do any Microsoft-based games for review. I'm just going to play them on PC because they're usually, dual account, where like if you get a code to activate or if you get Game Pass, generally if it's on on Xbox, it's on PC, and my PC is better than the Xbox. And we got the Switch 2 coming, so I'm probably going to end up with a Switch 2, a PS5 Pro, no Xbox at home, just doing Xbox games on PC, which I think is what Microsoft seems to want, because there's no incentive to use their hardware if it's going to have issues like this. And then I'll have my Series S, which I could sell, but I might keep the Series S because that's a good way to do comparisons and things. And I can play games on the go by just like grabbing the console, throwing it in the backpack, and going somewhere. But like this is the first time that I've ever had it where during a console generation where I have almost given up on a piece of hardware. Because there's nothing, like if we're given the option, would you like to review a game on Xbox or PS5? Why would anybody say Xbox when the PS5 version usually has enhancements for the DualSense controller as well?
See, for me, the only reason I would request a game on Xbox specifically comes down to controller. Like, I prefer to play COD on Xbox, but I don't know where the community is these days. Yeah, there isn't a lot keeping me in the Xbox environment either. I mean, other than the fact that I've customed mine to look like an N7 thing.
Oh no, and
That's
like
pretty cool.
yeah, exactly. If you're going to do that, like, the only reason I've decided that I want to keep probably at least the Series S, or it all depends. If we see a lot of games coming, but the reason to keep the Xbox Series X right now is for backwards compatibility, because there are a bunch of games, especially like even on PC. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm playing the Ubisoft stuff. There's a lot of Ubisoft titles that are available on the Ubisoft Connect app that are part of their if you have like their Ubisoft Plus account where you can download and play all their games. It's basically like Game Pass. There's a lot on there that just won't play on Windows 10 or 11. You go to install it, you turn it on, it won't boot. And they're terrible at telling you which ones do and which ones don't. And yet those same games, for instance, Assassin's Creed, Unity, and Syndicate, will not boot on Windows 11. Period. No matter what there's no patches, there's no mods, nothing. And same goes for Assassin's Creed 1, 2. For some 1, 2, Rogue doesn't do it. Black Flag doesn't load. Some of the others in between do, but like 1 and 2 in that. And yet, if you get them in backwards compatibility mode on the Xbox, they boot just fine and work at 60 FPS, no issues, all enhancements. So I guess right now the reason to keep an Xbox is for backwards compatibility. Other than that, if you're going multi-platform, you may as well just get it on PlayStation.
Yeah, more or less.
End of rant. Microsoft, do better.
There we go. All right, guys. So like I said, we have a lot to talk about in this week's show. As I mentioned previously, we're going to be taking a look at Rise of the Ronin, which Ken took a look at on the PC. Alex has a preview of our content for Assassin's Creed Shadows. Will be giving his thoughts with a full spoiler discussion coming next week. And I will have a review from our friends over at Warner Bros. Home Entertainment for the latest adventure into the Middle Earth. And that is Lord of the Rings, War of the Rohirrim. We'll look at that a little bit later on. So without any further ado, well, I guess let's take a trek into Ken's review for Rise of the Ronin. We'll be back, guys, right after this, only on thisweekingeek.net.
There's a saying they have over there. It's always darkest before the dawn.
Japan, a great white whale that's eluded all others.
The time has come to settle things with firearms. You're still alive.
Do not get in my way.
Fighting is such a bore. Attack me, and you attack the Shogunate. The traitors who dare threaten the palace will die by our hand. We have righteousness on our side. We finally meet. Can you do this?
Hey guys, Ken Reels here, and welcome to my review for Rise of Ronin for the PC. This is a PC port of the Rise of Ronin that was a PS5 exclusive. This was developed by Koei Tecmo and Team Ninja and published by the folks over at Koei Tecmo. Also, thank you to the folks at Koei Tecmo for sending me a code for the Steam version of the game. And this is a Souls-light action game set in the final years of the Edo period, better known as the Bukumatsu period, aka the part of Japanese history where you see Japan ended the shogunate and thus the samurai. Pretty much time when samurai don't exist anymore and one that do survive the purge become rogue warriors across the Japanese countryside, aka Ronin. The game is structured very much like Nioh to start off with, as you have different missions that you go through and battle like a big boss at the end of it. Very linear kind of mission structure. But that's only like the first 2, maybe 3 hours worth of missions before you get to the open world action game stuff that you've seen in stuff like Ghost of Tsushima or Assassin's Creed Shadows. And despite the game's claim of 8K texture support, which balloons the game's file size to 150 gigabytes, this game is quite ugly and not visually impressive like the aforementioned games. I ran the game at 1440p on my 3070 Ti and normally would see a solid 60 no problem, but once you hit the open world portion, your FPS drops like a lead balloon and becomes very inconsistent. The game feels like kind of a mess that, while doesn't entirely disappoint, giving it slightly below full price tag, it just isn't the kind of game that I think warrants you having 8K textures, or sometimes even 4K textures, being a priority. Then there's the inherent design stuff baked into the game, like how its menu system, in order to quit the game, for example, you have to go to Quit Game while you're in gameplay, which then takes you to the title screen, which has to play an opening movie every single time, so you have to skip the opening movie, then you go to the title screen, go to the title menu, and then click Quit Game in order to close out the game. Now, this game also recommends you play with controller, but it also has partial controller support. There are some menus you can't actually access via just the controller. You have to use a mouse and keyboard, which is incredibly frustrating. So you can't just have it play on a home theater PC and play it with just the controller. You have to have a mouse and keyboard on you in order to fully play the game. So, yeah, a lot of frustration, and I would have liked to seen some of this stuff like an exit to desktop option maybe in the gameplay menu instead of having to go through all the rigmarole that I just commented on. But there are some things that I actually do like about the game, and that is that it has a very, very good character creator, as you have a robust set of options to create exactly the character you want, down to RPG color codes for your hair options, and it also opts for a more gender neutral set of voices. There's 2 different voice options, both very gender neutral, and you can use the pitch slider to kind of pitch it to your personal liking. The gameplay, for the most part, is also pretty solid when it's not having crazy frame rate dips, especially during those opening few hours. The gameplay is super solid because you get a solid 60 FPS. Overall, this is one of those get it on deep discount if you want to get it at all kind of ports. While I'm sure there will be plenty more patches to come, currently, as of this recording, the first major patch just dropped, but it is not worth the $50 USD asking price. I hope Koei Tecmo can learn from this and make their PC ports better going forward, but overall, it's most likely a skip or buy on deep discount over here at This Week in Geek. And with that, back to whatever the rest of this show is that this review is attached to. And thanks once again to the folks at Koei Tecmo for sending me a code.
It is in times of strife when we are most needed.
I finally see it. The new shape this country must take.
The Prime Minister of Sweden visited Washington today, and my tiny little nipples went to France.
Gossip, rumors, panic in the streets. We're lucky.
This Week in Geek
News.
Welcome back to This Week in Geek.net. I am Mike the Birdman. He's our producer. That was Ken. And now we're going to be talking about the nerd news, only on This Week in Geek.net. So what happened around the big blue marble this week? Well, courtesy of ComingSoon.net, we have learned a new Starship movie is in development from District 9 and Chappie director Neil Blomkamp, and it is in the works. A new Starship Troopers movie is in the works. The original Starship Troopers, based on the 1959 novel by Robert A. Heinlein, was released in 1997, directed by Paul Verhoeven. The satirical sci-fi movie stars Casper Van Dien as Johnny Rico, Dina Meyer as Dizzy Flores, Denise Richards as Carmen Abanez, Jake Busey as Ace Levy, Neil Patrick Harris as Carl Jenkins, and finally Clancy Brown as Sergeant Sam. Neil Blomkamp is now set to write and direct a new Starship Troopers movie, as per The Hollywood Reporter for Columbia Pictures. What do we know about the new movie so far? Well, Neil Blomkamp's movie won't be a direct remake of the Verhoeven film. Rather, The Hollywood Reporter reports that, quote, the goal is to go back to the source material. Further plot details remain under wraps at this time. Blomkamp will also serve as a producer on the film alongside with his wife, Terry Tatchell. Blomkamp made his feature film directorial debut in 2009 with District 9, which I haven't seen yet.
You still haven't seen that movie? That's like
yeah.
the big millennial movie. Like
I know, right?
That was the sci-fi movie of our generation, of the found footage generation.
And it also says, so that movie received 4 Academy Award nominations, including Best Picture. He followed that up with 2013's Elysium and 2015's Chappie, before making Demonic in 2021, which I didn't even know. His most recent movie was 2023's Gran Turismo, which is based upon the racing video game series developed by Polyphony Digital. He was also working on an Alien movie for a time that was shelved and ultimately canceled after Ridley Scott decided to make 2017's Alien Covenant. A release date for the new Starship Troopers has not yet been announced. The original Starship Troopers movie, meanwhile, is currently available to stream on Amazon Prime. Blah, 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 blah. There's talk about the sequel, so Starship Troopers 2, Hero of the Federation, which is not as bad as I remember. 2008's Starship Troopers 3, Marauder. There have also been 2 animated movies, Starship Troopers Invasion, and 2017 Starship Troopers Traitor of Mars, and a bunch of video games and movies and television shows. Actually, I would love to talk about this on Future Imperfect at some point. Maybe I'll do this with the boys if you and Aaron don't want to, because I know he's not a fan of this.
Of which?
Of Starship Troopers, because of Heinlein and
the original
interesting political content right now.
Well, the original, I've read the book.
Same here. I read that in high school after I saw the movie. Actually,
the book
way
is
different,
highly racist, but not in the same way. Like the racism and tongue-in-cheekness that Verhoeven brought is not there. It's Heinlein was very much the kind of racist that is, well, of course certain races are inherently superior. Like that's his attitude. And it's like, oh
yeah, like I actually had a very interesting debate with someone on social media about Starship Troopers, and people, I was like, can you, and I asked this person very plainly, I'm like, we were talking about Star Trek, because of course we are. I had asked him, like, okay, I'm just curious, and I didn't mean this to be antagonistic. I'm like, okay, are there any people who are, and I'm just going to use this word very briefly, conservative writers from the right who write on the regular on Star Trek? I didn't get an answer to that, but immediately the conversation went to Heinlein and Starship Troopers. And I'm thinking, okay, cool. You've probably read the book, which is great. I mean, the book it's entertaining for its time, but the Verhoeven movie, I think, is better because it is so satire. It's ridiculous. And it's an action movie that knows it's stupid and has fun with it. Like that, would you like to know more? And, when you look at the uniforms of the Federation, I forget what they're called, actually, of Earth's guys. When you see Neil Patrick Harris's guy who works for the Games in Theory, he looks like a Nazi SS officer, and they even talk about that. And I think one of the commentators are like, well, yeah, we based a lot of our designs on this look because we're trying to make fun of it. And it's a movie, I think it gets people don't realize they're kind of making fun of this stupid shit, but
that was part of the point. Of his point was Americans will see this and go, hell yeah, and then not realize that the point of his movie being made was to go, you're gullible.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I will say, because I think we did a commentary on this like 15 years ago, so it's been a while. One of my favorite additions that Verhoeven made was casting Dizzy as a woman, and Dina Meyer's one of my first crushes, I might add. But what I liked about it was the dynamic, because in the book, if I remember, Dizzy was just kind of a side character, not really kind of there at all. And the big thing that separates, for those that aren't aware, is in Starship Troopers, they're basically like mech suits. So think ODST drop pods from Halo, but they're in fully enclosed mech suits like elementals from BattleTech. And it's like, okay, cool. I much prefer the Verhoeven approach, which is guys on the ground with their Maritas, and it's war. It's literal ground war. And it's, like I said, it's a very entertaining film. It is definitely worth watching. I think there was a amazing 4K that came out last year. We didn't get it for review, but we did ask for it. So yeah, I think Neil Blomkamp's a wonderful guy to take this on. You can definitely, there's going to be some humor in it because he did do Chappie, but it'll be a lot more, cerebral's not the right word, but there'll be a lot more elements that are less that from, Song 2's Song 2 by Blur. It'll be a little less Hell Yeah America and a little more like, maybe we shouldn't do this sort of thing. So I'm interested. I mean, I think it'll be cool. So yeah, I guess we'll see that. My guess is 2027, at the earliest.
If it doesn't just get canceled, because he's had multiple projects canceled on him.
Yeah, and I would have been interested to see his Alien movie before Covenant, because it was proposed to be like they were going to bring back Hicks, they were going to bring back Ripley, and even Newt. And if I remember right, it was fairly well conceived. Like some concept art came out, but it just didn't happen. Honestly, I kind of like the way the Alien series is going now with Romulus and with Alien Earth coming out sometime fairly soon. I'm cautiously optimistic about it. But for Starship Troopers, Neil Blomkamp, in terms of people that were going to helmet, yeah, sure. I don't think you could do a whole lot better. I mean, we're not going to get the guy from Dune doing Starship Troopers, although that might be an interesting vision of the future. But we'll have to wait and see. So yeah, I guess look for that whenever we get more news. We will be following this story as more news and plot details come out. Our next story, this one kind of surprised me. I found this via consequence.net. And Pirate Bay co-founder Carl Lundstrom dies in a plane crash. A member of the far-right Alternative for Sweden party, Lundstrom was piloting a small airplane. Swedish businessman Carl Lundstrom, a co-founder and financial backer of the file-sharing site The Pirate Bay, has died in a plane crash. He was 64. As reported by The Independent, the prominent member of the far-right Alternative for Sweden party was traveling from the capital of Croatia, I can't pronounce this, Zagreb, to Zurich, Switzerland, with a small plane he was piloting crashed into the Slovenian mountains. On Tuesday, Alternative for Sweden released a statement confirming the details of Lundstrom's death, praising him as a, quote, legend and veteran of Swedish nationalism. From 2003 to 2005, Lundstrom sold the services of his company, Riks Telecom, and provided equipment to the Pirate Bay, which housed a BitTorrent index allowing copyrighted comics, movies, software, etc., books to be widely and illegally spread across the internet. During a 2009 trial, Lundstrom was found guilty of a, quote, accessory for breaching copyright law alongside Fredrik Nij and Gottfried Svartholm Warg and Peter Sund. They were each sentenced to 1 year in prison and ordered to jointly pay 30 million SEK, approximately 3.5 million in damages. Lundstrom's appeal brought his sentence down to 4 months, but the fine was increased to 32. Outside of the Pirate Bay, Lundstrom has been active in Swedish far-right politics since the 80s. Most recently, he ran in the 2021 elections for Church Assembly as an alternative for the Swedish candidate. Alternative for Sweden was a far-right nationalist party that was founded in 2018 by expelled members of the Swedish Democrats. Its political stances include mass deportation of immigrants, a call to withdraw from the European Union, bans on same-sex adoption, and same-sex marriage. Lundstrom was also heir to the Swedish crisp bread producer Wasabröd, as reported in Metro. So nothing of value was lost, and I don't feel sorry about saying that. This guy's a dick. Now, obviously, the Pirate Bay is internet royalty, if we're going to be quite frank about it. Like after Napster and LimeWire were like, hey, what virus would you like today? You had so many different torrent sharing sites. Like I remember Demonoid. I remember
Demonoid was Canadian, and it got shut down when the laws changed about cam videos from theaters. Prior to that, the originally was Supernova. I don't know who posted Supernova.
I remember a few links on there.
That was around 2000, 2001 with Supernova, and then Mini Nova came out of it, and then after Mini Nova, Pirate Bay popped up, and Pirate Bay, I think originally it was a copycat. Now, are you surprised that somebody who is a old school anarchist happens to also be an asshole?
No, I'm not. I mean,
people seem to idolize, where they're like, oh, when they idolize people that are like, not just piracy, but like the idea of free and open information, free and open, blah blah, copyright, blah blah blah. Championing that's all great and good in the bubble in itself, but the reality is a lot of the people that are running it are also into like horrible shit like human trafficking or bad like you never really find like the single good champion of that ideal without finding that there's other horrible shit that they're involved in, unfortunately. And it's no surprise. Let's say that.
Yeah, and like it's crazy because like I haven't done torrenting literally in many years, simply because I don't know how anymore. I've gotten to that point where I'm too old and Grandpa yells at fix the VCR, Alex.
Beyond like when it comes to like file sharing for like media, you do torrenting. You do it on an almost daily basis. How do you think when you download a PC game on Steam or any
cloud stuff, right?
Any client, almost every video game client, like if you play an MMO, like if you play people play that World of Warcraft, they use torrenting to do all their patches in the background. So the actual protocol, like the BitTorrent protocol, has been used in every mainstream thing like forever. So like a good example would be you have Steam, or if you have, I don't know how PlayStation and Xbox use it on their back end, like what they use for their transfer protocols. But I can tell you right now, if you've ever installed a game for Steam or any other client, that's what they use. Or especially MMOs and that too. They'll use.
I have seen people in the RPG industry. Surprisingly, I can't remember what company it was, but they're like, hey, if this is easier, if you buy all the file or you buy all the books to whatever property, hey, if this is easier, here's a torrent for it.
Yeah. So you see it distributed in those ways. And then there was that weird experimental period where some movie companies were releasing torrents of their movies to watch for free.
Yep, I remember that.
There was a TV show as well, I believe, that released episodes like instead of on YouTube as a web series, they were releasing them officially on the BitTorrent website back in the day. So
I seem to recall there was data. Like, I think you and I covered this. I'm almost positive you gave me this story. We were talking about how they were tracking Game of Thrones downloads and they were using the Pirate Bay as that metric.
Yeah, it was Game of Thrones, and it was after The Sopranos, I think. It was The Sopranos last season, and it was Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones, at one point, it was season 1 or season 2, they had a sticker on the box for the Blu-ray. I think it was season 1, maybe season 1, and it was the most pirated television show ever. They had a sticker for it in stores. They used it as an advertising campaign.
Yeah, like I seem to recall that. I mean, like I remember I was like how I learned about torrenting, and I was dating a girl from Calgary, and I went out to basically like, you know what, maybe I want to uproot my life and see how this works out. Not my proudest moment, but she had a brother named Stacy, and Stacy showed me how to access I'd never gone beyond Windows 98 at this point. So he introduced me to Windows 2000 NT. I'm thinking, this is so smooth. This is really cool. I like this.
So he's like, so this is early. This is like 2000, 2001, 2002 before.
I want to say 2002. Trying to think. Yeah. So I was dating this
because XP was already out, but not everybody had it yet.
Yeah, so I was doing this, and so Stacy, the brother, showed me how to use BitTorrents, and I was like, oh my god, this is so cool. And then I got signed up on Demonoid and Supernova, and yeah, I rode the high seas for a while because, you know, when you live in rural Ontario,
it was still the gray area as to whether or not it was like not certain things we knew wasn't right, but like at that time, the most beyond saying, we knew that music was in a legal limbo. We knew that movies themselves were in a legal limbo, but if you remember, torrenting was the main thing that was the gray area where we weren't sure whether it was legal or not
Where it
was
was coming from?
well, no, was television,
Yeah.
because there it was because we knew that tape trading, when they say, you're not allowed to tape television because it's prohibited, blah blah blah, but you were legally allowed, you still are legally allowed if you have paid for cable, or if it's broadcast over there, like let's say CBS or NBC. When an episode of a TV show airs, you're allowed to tape a copy for yourself on VHS or DVR or anything, though, and you're allowed to have your friends can come over and watch that because you made that copy for yourself. The argument was, is it considered public broadcasting if you're sharing that tape online for television? And that still has weird limbo-y issues, where as long as you're not like grabbing their source file, if you're taping a copy, like just like screen capping, screen recording, does that count? We knew for movies it didn't. You're not allowed. But for television, that was the intended broadcast. So there was that weird period in the early 2000s where the number one stuff being torrented was television shows, more so than movies, more so than anything else. And then, that's before we all started getting letters in the mail from Paramount and other companies being like,
Yep.
you're not allowed to do this. And it's like, okay, but then the question arose, how do you know I'm doing it if you're not supposed to be spying on us?
Yeah, I got a letter, and I can't remember who I think it was from. I don't want to say the company, but I got the letter, and it named the file, and I was like, I didn't do this.
You probably got it from Vivid.
No, surprisingly not. I know it wasn't anything like that. It was a very big movie company, and it was a later release. And the thing is, like, I didn't download this, so I wondered, was somebody leeching off my network?
Yes, that happened a lot, and that was what caused issues. Without going too into detail, is people didn't realize that a lot of people had their Wi-Fi, didn't have a password set, or they set the default password that was sent to them by their ISP, and a lot of people they would try the ISP's default password and connect to your network if they were like your neighbor. So there was that issue. It was Universal and Paramount were the number one and number two for sending letters to people.
Yeah.
And then surprisingly, it was Vivid and what's the other one?
Maybe Digital Playground, maybe?
I don't think it was them. Was it
Vivid
was it Devil something?
Oh, I know the company you mean. Yeah.
I don't even know if they're still around anymore.
I don't think so.
It's whatever company owned Adam and Eve or something, which is or
Right.
they were some conglomerate, but it was Vivid was the one, and there was somebody else, and they were like the number one thing was like teenagers and boys downloading pornos, and then their parents would get a letter saying, "Did you download so and so Chug's big dicks on something?" No, I didn't. Like, yeah, they fucking knew because they were tracking. They were. It was actually the porn industry again. Talk about innovative. A lot of them were making digital copies of their own, movies that they would distribute to different websites, and they were embedding watermarks and tracking stuff within the files itself, so they were seeing where their stuff was being pirated to before other people. So they knew exactly what it was, and this is before people started. So the solution had been then to start encrypting your connections for torrenting, which is what I'm bringing it back to when you have a gaming service, or when you have let's say World of Warcraft or something, and you connect and you're downloading, they use encrypted streams, and then that's how you connect and get your individual file updates or your patches and all. A lot of games, that's how they work. But how it started was people trying to protect themselves from being spied on, because at that point, they knew that there's a lot of traffic maybe going to somebody's house. But if one of the major studios were to say, this person's pirating, you would have a legal defense of, well, did you break into my encryption? Because you're not allowed to see what I have. And it's actually a larger offense to break the encryption than it is to have it. So there was a stalemate for years. And now the reality is, I think a lot of them have just sort of given up. They're like, people are going to buy the media when they buy the media. And the solution has always been, now make the media cheap and available for anybody to see for dirt cheap. And if that's the case, then nobody's going to pirate stuff. So
Yeah.
it's it's a long roundabout way to say fuck that guy, but it is an important part of the last quarter century.
Yeah, 100%. So this last story comes courtesy of Ars Technica, and I'm not going to say the name of the thing simply because I'm using that device right now and I don't want my TV to turn off. So everything you say to your Echo will be sent to Amazon starting on March 28th. Since Amazon announced plans for a generative AI of the Amazon AI, you know what it is. You can say it, Alex, but I can't. There you go. So I'm just going to call it Alex for the sake of this conversation. We were concerned about user privacy with Alex Plus rolling out to Amazon Echo devices in coming weeks. We're getting a clearer view of the privacy concessions people will have to make to maximize the usage of the AI voice assistant and avoid bricking functionality of already purchased devices. In an email sent to customers today, Amazon said Echo users will no longer be able to set their devices to process Alex request locally and therefore avoid sending voice recording to Amazon's cloud. Amazon apparently sent the email to users with the quote, do not send voice recordings enabled on their Echo. Starting March 28th, recordings of every command spoken to the AI living in Echo speakers and smart displays will automatically be sent to Amazon and processed in the cloud. Attempting to rationalize the change, Amazon email said, quote, as we continue to expand Alex's capabilities with generative AI features that rely on the processing power of Amazon Secure Cloud, we have decided to no longer support this feature. One of the most marketed feature of Alex Plus's more advanced ability to recognize who is speaking to it, a feature known as Alex Voice ID. To accommodate this feature, Amazon is eliminating a privacy-focused capability for all Echo users, even those who aren't interested in the subscription-based version of Alex or want to use Alex Plus, but not its ability to recognize different voices. However, there are plenty of reasons people wouldn't want Amazon to receive recordings of what they say to their personal device. For one, the idea of a conglomerate being able to listen to personal requests made in your home is simply unnerving. Further, Amazon has previously mismanaged Alex voice recordings. In 2023, Amazon agreed to pay $25 million in civil penalties over the revelation that it stored recording of children's interactions with Alex forever. Adults didn't feel properly informed of Amazon's inclination to keep Alex recordings unless prompted to until 2019, 5 years after the first Echo came out. If that's not enough to deter you from sharing your voice recordings with Amazon, note that the company allowed employees to listen to Alex voice recordings. In 2019, Bloomberg reported that Amazon employees listened to as many as 1,000 audio samples during their 9-hour shifts. Amazon says it allows employees to listen to Alex voice recordings to train its speech recognition and natural language understanding systems. Other reasons people may be hesitant to trust Amazon with personal voice samples include the previous use of Alex voice recordings in criminal trials and Amazon paying a settlement in 2023 in relation to allegations that allowed, quote, thousands of employees and contractors to watch video recordings of customers' private spaces taken from Ring camera as per the Federal Trade Commission. Article continues. It's just about to wrap up here. Likely looking to get ahead of these concerns, Amazon said in its email today that by default, it will delete recordings of Alex user requests after processing. However, anyone with their Echo device set to don't save recordings will see this already purchased Voice ID feature bricked. Voice ID enables Alex to do things like share user-specific calendar events, reminders, music, and more. Previously, Amazon said if you choose to save any voice recordings, Voice ID may not work. As of March 20th, broken Voice ID is a guarantee for people who don't let Amazon store their voice recording. Amazon's email says Alex voice requests are always encrypted in transit to Amazon Secure Cloud, which was designed with layers of security protections to keep customer information safe. Customers can continue to choose from a robust set of controls by visiting the Alex Privacy Dashboard online or navigating to more privacy in the Alex app. Amazon is forcing Echo users to make a couple of tough decisions. Grant Amazon access recordings of everything you say to Alex or stop using Echo. Let Amazon save voice recordings and have employees listen to them or lose a feature set to become more advanced and central to the next generation of Alex. However, Amazon is betting big that Alex Plus can dig the voice assistant out of a financial pit. Amazon has publicly committed to keeping the free version of Alex around forever, but Alex Plus is viewed as Amazon's last hope for keeping Alex alive and making it profitable. Anything Amazon can do to get people to pay for Alex takes precedent over other Alex user demands, including, it seems, privacy. I don't like this. Now I use a Google device in my home, and
It's honestly no different than what Google and no, it's
probably the
believe
exact same.
Apple Series worse.
Mhm.
But that's just it's no surprise that they're doing this. The reality is they don't need to. Like, I always find it funny when people are like, "Oh, they need to make this one profitable because it's losing money." No, it's not, because Amazon is Amazon, and Amazon is the richest company in the fucking world. So it's not losing money. That division isn't as profitable as they want. When the reality is, they're they're manipulating and lying, because that is one aspect of, it's like 1% of the value of their company. But if that 1% isn't making them money, then it's desperately in need of change to make money. Bullshit. They make so much money off of everything else that could be a loss leader for the rest of time. You know what you know what I mean? This isn't a case of, oh, this product is sinking the company. It has nothing to do with that. So their excuses are bullshit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like, if the Amazon store front itself was losing money, they can still run it in perpetuity because of the insane amount of money they make from their web storage.
Yeah, because Amazon has all these services. They've got Prime Video.
Well, it's
They've
like
got
it's
service
like
itself.
it's not even that. It's like 70% of the world's websites are run off of their servers now.
Yeah.
So, like, it's just like with Google. Like, YouTube doesn't make money. Even with the ads, they try to offset it because it costs a lot to serve that much video and that much data. It is. It's a loss leader because the vast majority of Google's money is made off of businesses and off of Gmail, search, and Google Drive / G Suite, which is like their docs and stuff. They make almost all of their money off of business hosting, and YouTube can lose money for the next 100 years and they still wouldn't lose money as a company. So that is a crock of horse shit that they're saying that it needs to be profitable. So we need to, no, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. It's just everybody that works at the top there is just greedy, pure greed.
They want more money because clearly we need to have more billionaires in the world, which
No, we don't need more billionaires. They want to be the only billionaires. It's about having less billionaires that have more money. That's all they care about.
Yeah, it's so ridiculous. I mean, obviously, this is just kind of the world we live in. I mean, I have a assistant in my house because I use it for accessibility needs. And do I take my privacy as seriously as I should? Probably not. If I'm going to be real about it, but I'm not exactly going to say
you're not
anything
you're not in a position to not need it. Like, you actually do need to have emergency services available to you at a voice command.
Yeah, because it works, and it's something that a lot of people don't think about in the accessibility space. Because I said, the ability to turn on a light is really useful, and people ask, well, why don't you just get up and walk? There's the problem, chum. I am an amputee. Why don't you just get in your wheelchair? So you want me to go through a crap ton of effort to flick a light switch when I can just say, hey, device, please do this. Okay. Or, I mean, my 80-year-old mother-in-law uses hers to search for information. She uses it for weather. She uses it for sports. And I'm thinking, all right, that's a good convenience for old people too. And hell, I could even put forth a case together with all this generative AI shit. I could see them I think you and I have talked about this before. We've talked about the artificial friends, or these chat robots that respond like a person. I could see that being used for an Alzheimer's patient. So there are good uses for AI, but this doesn't seem like one of them. And again, having all these voice samples, I dare to ask, haven't you learned enough?
Also, this might only apply to the States. Every country is going to have their own laws against what they can do. Prime example is we never in Canada get the newest Fire or Kindle devices. We always get a year behind, or almost, I think, a year and a half behind usually, or 2 years. So when we get what says to be the new 2025 model, it's usually the 2023 or maybe early 2024 in the States, because it is illegal to sell the product in Canada where it has the ads option, where you can't turn it off, or where they charge you to turn off ads.
Oh.
So like when you buy like a Kindle in the States, it has ads all over it. Or when you buy like a Fire tablet, there are ones where the closed screen is ads, like there's ads everywhere. You cannot have that in Canada. You can only sell the ad-free version. And a lot of other countries are a similar way. So their solution is we get trickled out the stuff about a year. Basically, as soon as it becomes obsolete in the States, they repackage it in Canada as a brand new device.
Huh. Well, the things I didn't know 10 minutes ago.
So because of that, I could see them being like, oh, yeah, in Canada you can't do that. And then they would have to divert that. Like our Fire OS software is actually like has like a revision number on it that's different because they're not allowed to do certain things here. So it's going to be like that, I think, for the world. What you'll see is that rolls out for international. Like, for instance, if I order one of the tablets from the States and have it shipped to Canada, they're not supposed to ship it here. Like if you go to the Amazon.com and use your Prime or whatever to ship it to Canada, it'll say, like, it's supposed to say that they're not allowed to ship it to Canada, but if they do ship it here and you go to activate it, you might not even get it working because it will check your location and be like, you can't use this here because of the ads. So I could see them rolling this out, but then on anything that's considered an international product, it still works the way that it always has here.
Yeah.
Without doing the nanny state stuff.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I guess we'll see what happens with this story. We'll see how Canada comes out on the other side of this whenever there is some kind of a story. But thank you to Ars Technica for wonderful reporting on this. So we're going to take a break here on the show. We're going to take a listen to one of my reviews as we take a trip to Middle Earth. But we're not going to the Shire this time. No. We are going to a different battle, and we're going to be checking out War of the Rohirrim from our friends over at Warner Brothers Home Entertainment. We will be back, guys, right after this with the weird news right here on thisweekingeek.net.
All Middle-earth knows the tale of the War of the Ring. But 200 years before that...
Riders of the Mark! Brothers of Rohan!
there was an older tale.
Arise!
We come with an offer to strengthen Rohan.
Hera, daughter of Helm, I, Wolf, seek your hand in marriage.
Our fathers speak as if I were not even in the room. I do not want to marry you.
You do not seek an alliance. You seek a throne.
Hey guys, this is Mike the Birdman here, and I've got a special review from our friends over at Warner Brothers Home Entertainment. I'm going to be talking about the 4K Ultra HD plus digital code, The Lord of the Rings, The War of the Rohirrim. Although I have heard this pronounced several different ways, I didn't read the Silmarillion, so you're going to have to live with it. But anyway, what is this movie about? Well, this is a story that takes place about 200 years before The Lord of the Rings, War of the Ring. Basically, this is almost exclusively in Rohan and that part of Middle Earth, and it deals with a new heroine named Hera, and basically the founding of Helm's Deep, which is surprisingly kind of badass. I was very impressed by this. And this isn't like your Rankin Bass Hobbit that came out in the 70s. This isn't even the Lord of the Rings movies that came out in the 1980s that were also animated. And boy, are they a trip. Hearing John Hurt as Aragorn, that's weird. Fun, but weird. This is really well done. I did not expect to like this as much as I did. I originally saw this during Christmas time, and this was such a blast to see in theaters. Seeing it in my home system in 4K looks really nice. I haven't had a chance to watch a whole lot of anime specifically in 4K. I just don't. But watching this, I was surprised how bright and vivid the colors were, how rich the voices were through the audio mixing. Overall, remarkably pleased. Great movie. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Great performances by Brian Cox, who you may know as Stryker from the X-Men movies, also HBO's Succession. So yeah, wonderful performances all in there. Also some original cast members from Lord of the Rings in there. See if you can spot where Merry and Pippin's voice actors are in this, and you might very well be surprised by it. But great movie. Thoroughly enjoy it. a lot longer than you might think, actually, like over 2 hours. I was very pleasantly surprised by that. It wasn't just a 90-minute in and out. They put some serious money into this. In terms of special features, each of them, I want to say there's no more than like 40 minutes of stuff here, but there's a couple different features. Averaging about 10 minutes or so, kind of talks about the creative process, the stuff that they had to do, stuff about character designs, which again, it all totally fits. They worked with Weta Workshop to make sure they had the look of the armor and the weapons right. Overall, pretty good. Not as extensive as the Lord of the Rings, where like the documentaries are like feature length, but still enough to give you a taste. This actually kind of inspired me to take on a new TWIG project we're going to be doing later on this year. I've talked on the show a couple times where me, Ken, and Dave are going to be taking on the entire Lord of the Rings franchise, and we may bring in some special guests for that discussion because, hey, Middle-earth is a big place, and it's not just the Shire and hobbits. There's a lot to talk about. So talking about this, I'm really looking forward to do it. So can I recommend the 4K Ultra HD edition of The Lord of the Rings, The War of the Rohirrim? Yeah. It's a really good movie. It really does, I feel like it fits into the Lord of the Rings timeline. Nice and neat. There's a couple of really neat Easter eggs in there. And definitely you'll be surprised by who shows up right at the very end of the movie. I did not see that coming, and in the theater I was like, oh my god, really? So cool. Like I said, you should really check this out. I think it's great. It's a wonderful addition to the Middle-earth franchise. I really hope we get more of these in the future. So yeah, we'll wait and see. So once again, this comes to us from Warner Bros. Home Entertainment. That's the 4K Ultra HD copy plus digital code of The Lord of the Rings, War of the Rohirrim.
People need hope here. Something to believe in.
My pride, my joy. You could rule the world.
You think I am afraid of you?
You should be.
Go crazy?
Don't mind if I do!
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
Welcome back to This Week in Geek.net. I'm Mike the Birdman. He's Alex. You're not. It's now time to talk about the weird and strange and unusual things that have happened around this dimension we call Earth. All right, this first story comes from techdirt.com. Judge uses D&D's failure to make him worship Satan to school Florida on social moral panic. When Florida's lawyers tried to defend the state's social media age restriction by claiming it's, quote, well known that platforms harm children, they probably weren't expecting to get schooled on moral panics by a judge citing his own experiences with Dungeons and Dragons. But that's exactly what happened in a recent hearing challenge Florida's unconstitutional law barring teenagers from social media, and it perfectly illustrated why we should be deeply skeptical of laws based upon unproven claims of harm to children. Florida's law, HB 3, is part of a broader wave of state legislation to try to block social media access to anyone under 16. The justification is always the same: protecting children from harm. The evidence is always equally thin, and the constitutional problems are always glaring. But that's what makes this particular hearing fascinating, is how clearly it exposes three key problems with these laws: the shaky evidence, the troubling implications for parental rights, and most importantly, the way they echo previous moral panics about everything from comic books to rap music. And why do these laws always focus on those under 16? What makes that magic age to flip the switch? Nobody ever explains that. The best suggestion is the age recommendation that Jordan Haidt's widely debunked book about kids and social media. Except, as I noted in my review of the book, Haidt makes basically zero effort to defend why it's okay for a 16-year-old to use social media, but not anyone younger. He just notes that, quote, he thinks it makes more sense, which is a striking admission given how much Haidt and his supporters claim the book is supported by data and studies. CCIA and NetChoice sued to stop the law from going into effect, and while there hasn't been much of a ruling on a preliminary injunction, I did get my hands on some of the transcript at the hearing from the end of February. The transcript reads like a masterclass in dismantling moral panic arguments. When Florida's lawyers stood up in court to defend the law, they reached out for what they clearly thought was their strongest argument. Well, Your Honor, it's well known in this country that kids are addicted to these platforms, but Judge Mark Walker, the chief judge of the Northern District of Florida, wasn't buying what Florida was selling. His response got cut straight to the heart of why these claims do deserve skepticism, and some of it was based on his own childhood experiences on the other side of the moral panic. The lawyer, Mr. Globinski, that's a name that sounds like a villain from a comic book. Well, Your Honor, it is well known in this country that kids are addicted to these platforms. This is a mental health, the court. It is also well known when I was growing up that I was going to become a Satanist because I played Dungeons and Dragons. Is that, I don't know what that really means. You can say that there's these studies, Judge, and you can't ignore experts that say X. The D&D reference isn't just an amusing comeback. It's a federal judge explaining through personal experience on why courts shouldn't accept, quote, everybody knows arguments about harm to children. After all, these things have been, quote, well known to harm children over the years. It's also well known that chess made kids violent, or that the waltz would be fatal to young women, or it's that the phone would prevent young men from ever speaking to young women again.
Oh, what was it? The waltz? Yeah, wasn't it something about the... It wasn't. I don't think that one was about women's hysteria, but I think wasn't that one something about how it wasn't hysteria, but like the excitement was too much for their hearts, their weakened female hearts to handle, or something.
Yeah, I remember that.
That was something about that. The dance was too provocative. The waltz, by the way, the most boring dance on the planet. Like they're like that. Apparently, that was going to make them swoon so much that they would have heart palpitations. And it's like, man, I have seen okay. Can you imagine the people that said that if you showed them the tango?
Yeah, they would just explode like scanners.
Evaporate on the spot, just because
Thanos snap.
I mean, there have been some tangos where you're like, wow, you're basically inside her.
It's like, oh wow.
There are some hot Latin dances that are legit, like whoa, but no,
that's provocative.
Waltz.
So when Florida's lawyers tried to argue that social media was somehow different, this time the moral panic was justified, Judge Walker was ready with historical receipts. Mr. Globinski, kids weren't reading comics. Millions and millions of kids weren't reading comics 8 hours a day. Millions and millions of kids weren't listening to rap music 8 hours a day. I doubt that. There's something different going on here, and there's a consensus.
There wasn't millions of kids doing it, but there were a few.
Yeah. So the court. The problem is, counsel, that's a really bad example. The comics, because there was an entire exhibit in Glasgow where they barred comics in the entire country because somebody decided comics were turning their youth against their parents and were causing them to engage in worship the supernatural and stuff. So, I mean, I guess the point was that the plaintiffs were making is from the beginning of time, we've targeted things under some belief and that it's harming our youth, but it doesn't necessarily make it so. But please go ahead. That trailing, but go ahead is savage. I think I'd rather curl up in a ball and try to disappear in the middle of a courtroom rather than go ahead after that. Florida also went with what they must have thought was their strongest argument, the authority of the U.S. Surgeon General. After all, if the nation's top doctor says social media is addictive, who is a mere federal judge to question it? But this appeal to authority also ran straight into another one of Judge Walker's key points. Expert opinions, even from the highest officials, need actual evidence behind them. Mr. Globinski, the U.S. Surgeon General recognized them as addictive. Experts recognized them as addictive. The legislative staff analysis in this case was also pretty thorough and cited a lot of... The Surgeon General also said COVID was dangerous, but I get it. It doesn't necessarily say that the U.S. Surgeon General, just because he says something, doesn't make it so. The judge's COVID example is not great. COVID was and remains legitimately dangerous, supported by overwhelming scientific evidence, but his broader point was not about blindly accepting authority claims stance. After all, this is the same office that once warned about the dangers of Pac-Man. Judge Walker does a bit more, blah, 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 goes into denialism about COVID, but basically the judge didn't turn into a Satan-worshipping heroin junkie, and he kind of just...
And this is in Florida where you'd expect it would happen.
Yeah, exactly. Like, oh my God, I just got the monster manual. Time to worship Satan himself. But hold on, I gotta listen to some rap music, listen backwards, and I don't know, break a mirror and do other terrible things. I don't know.
This is Florida. The judge is more likely to show up on bath salts and eat the plaintiff.
Yeah, like there's literally gonna the bailiff is likely to be the cocaine raccoon at this point. Yeah. So,
like in Florida, I would not be surprised if I was if I was a tourist and then I got into an altercation and I showed up in court and fucking Tiger King was my bailiff. It'd be like, what? They're like, work program, buddy.
Yeah, exactly. Like Florida is a very strange place.
Would you like some meth and also pet my tigers?
Like Jesus. But yeah, I mean, I remember the moral panic of the 1980s and 90s. I was not quite a part of it, but I did hear a number of things when my grandparents, because I grew up with people who adopted me, so they were in their 60s and 70s raising me, so obviously not great. But I do remember several conversations about role-playing games. And I remember one conversation, this has always stuck with me, and it's such a bizarre example of generational gap. And my grandfather had just bought me the core rulebook for Star Wars Second Edition by West End Games. We played the game on Terrible Warriors. It's my favorite RPGs of all time. We even interviewed Bill Slavicsek a couple years ago. Okay, so I get it, and my grandmother, this miserable bitch of a woman, is like, you know that Star Wars isn't real, right? And I'm thinking, okay. Yes, I recognize that I'm not going to be hanging out with a Wookiee. I also recognize that there are no Jedi, but it's okay for you to engage in a sport that you will never play. And I said something to that effect to her. You can guess where this conversation went. She didn't like that. Yeah, just people are very strange, and I don't know. Moral panic.
People like to be controlling is more than anything. I want to control you, and you're not allowed to have fun unless it's within the constraints of what I want.
Yeah, and restricting kids to social media, on one hand, I can see that because especially here in Canada, about 10 years ago or more, we had a woman who died by suicide. Her name was Rehtaeh Parsons, and she was bullied relentlessly online. And we see it happen with TikTok now. I mean, I've been the receiver of several harassment campaigns. Hell, there was one website that was completely dedicated to it, and it's since been, I wouldn't, deplatformed is not the right word, but it's been weakened, but there's still people in that community that go after people. So I get it. I do. But I don't know how you control that. Like just flat out denying access.
Education and understanding is really the only way to go, because you're never going to stop kids from finding pornography. You're never going to stop kids from bullying people in any way that they can. Like people, when their hormones are running wild, they will do anything that they can to make themselves feel good, even if it leads them down the wrong, paths when it comes to harm of other people and themselves. Mm-hmm. So like the idea of like, oh, we're going to shut off all, kids can't have access to pornography. They will find a way. Kids can't have access to this because of, morally, everything you tell a kid that they can't do, they will do, period.
Yeah.
So the best way around it is you make it so that it's not obviously easy to do, but at the same time, you don't make a big deal out of, like, the bigger deal you make out of something, the more the kid wants to do it.
Yeah, I mean, like, you're right. Like, there has to be education, understanding, empathy. Are you ever totally going to eliminate bullying? No. And it pains me to say that, but if we totally eliminated bullying, I'm pretty sure we could solve a lot more problems in the world. It's not going to happen.
You have to have the sit down with, like the example with pornography thing is too. You have to sit down with the kids and be like,
it's not real.
This is a fantasy. Everybody's fantasy is going to be different. Everybody's dreams are different. At the same time, you have to realize that people are, and what you're seeing is people are being paid to do this. And when like, well, but what about when it says, home? It's all okay. Even all those are still about 90% fake.
Yeah,
that's the idea.
All staged for the camera.
Yeah, and if you go into like the dark web and stuff and you find some horrifying shit, that kid is on you. You found horrifying shit because there are sick people in the world.
Yeah, like there are monsters out there.
There's that, and the same will then go for D&D and for fantasy and all this. It's like if it's written down in a book and it's made as a product for people to have fun with, at that point, there's nothing wrong with using your imagination. You should then question, why do you not want your child to use their imagination?
Yeah, exactly. So thank you, D&D, for not making me worship Satan, and for Florida being somewhat reasonable in all this.
Well,
All right.
Florida is really a flip of a coin. It's either the most chaotic, nonsense you ever can imagine, or the most wholesome stuff. There is no in between. There is no gray area in Florida. Florida is one or the other.
Yeah, to describe D&D to describe Florida in terms of moral alignment for D&D, it is either chaotic good or it is chaotic evil.
No. I don't think they're chaotic evil. Chaotic evil is
I don't know. Anything Ron DeSantis did was not exactly great.
I was going to say Baltimore. No. Like Florida as a people and as a state is chaotic neutral. It's true. It's true chaos. Chaotic evil is like Nevada,
depending on the day. All right. So our next
Vegas.
So our next story comes from bloodydisgusting.com, and I couldn't help but talk about this because it's so bloody weird. Rob Zombie's House of a Thousand Corpses character teach kids to spell with Z is for zombie book. It's always fun to learn things with friends, especially when they're Rob Zombie's friends. Z is for zombie. Learning to spell with House of a Thousand Corpses friends is available now for $39.99. Aspiring spellers will be taught important words and phrases from positive role models like Captain Spaulding, Baby Firefly, Otis Driftwood, Dr. Satan, and Rob Zombie himself. Made in the style of the Little Golden Books, the 70-page hardcover is written by Rob Zombie and illustrated by Pete Bergman. And take a peek inside. Z is for Zombies, the latest release from Neckbolt Publishing, who previously brought us the official Rob Zombie coloring book, also illustrated by Bergman.
Wait, I'm sorry. I saw the preview. A is for ambush, attack, and assault.
Yeah, you also get B is for baby brandishing blades. C is for Captain cooking chicken. According to the back of the book, it reads, House of a Thousand Corpses, friends are ones to grow with. They entertain, they inform, they stretch the boundaries of the imagination. Their wide variety of enriching stories and subjects and their colorful, inviting illustrations have made them favorites with children and parents for more than 20 years. Because children love them, House of a Thousand Corpses books are an ideal instruction for the world of reading. Written and illustrated by some of the best children books authors and artists, House of a Thousand Corpses are known by their fun friends and a pleasure to bring to children. What in the actual colorful fuck? It's so weird. I would not spend $40 on this, but if I got it as a gag gift, I would not complain.
This is the kind of stuff that people need to buy and then secretly
put in libraries,
into kids' libraries at schools, and then see the panic happen.
Yeah, see, this will fuck you up and turn you into a Satanist, not exactly fighting Lolth the Spider Queen. Holy shit.
Dude, you want to talk? Okay, I don't know who did it, but there was a time in our local area here at the local library branch where somebody was putting the anarchist cookbook in the kids section.
Oh God.
And copies of was it 2600, like the hackers books?
Yep. I actually just bought one of those the other day, actually.
They were putting them randomly. I guess this is before we had a lot of security cameras other than just the entrances of the buildings. They were going to the public libraries and slipping them into the kids section. Now that's some interesting shit. Kid learning how to make in the anarchist cookbook, like, oh, it's like, oh, there's
napalm.
the Mr. Men books and like the little critter books. What's this? Oh, here's how to make a reactive grenade out of nails and what?
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned the anarchist cookbook specifically. So I like to browse Reddit against my better judgment, but I came across a post talking about the anarchist cookbook, and I think it was under the subreddit Nostalgia or something. And one of the Redditors had mentioned on there, like, hi, I'm actually a chemist, and a lot of this stuff will blow up in your face. Please don't do this.
Yeah.
And there was always the big thing, oh, this book is banned, whatever. But if you want to find a copy of it, don't follow it. But you can find it on archive.org. And there was always the rumor for years where if you had a copy of this, it put you on a watch list. Wouldn't surprise me, to be honest with you. But, you know.
No, it wasn't that. I think it was that rumor started because somebody was caught with it taking it onto a plane.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like you're not supposed to fly with it on your persons.
Yeah, like leave that shit in the cloud or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I remember growing up, there were kids who would mess around with the anarchist cookbooks. I knew a few people who tried out some of the explosive stuff. It's not great results, but they were also stupid.
No, the hacker magazine, like 2600,
is invaluable.
Those and not like people tried to lump that in with the anarchist cookbook. It's not. A lot of it was, well, I mean, originally it was like here's how you do phone freaking and stuff. Yeah. But like the vast majority of it is just like super ridiculously useful information for like in the world, the tech world that we live in now.
Like, for example, Alex, did you know I've been reading 2600 since 2001?
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. Oh God. Oh, I'm a huge dork for that hacker culture sub shit. Oh God. Yeah. Like that's how I learned a lot of my early stuff was from stuff like that. Now, the most recent issue I picked up was more about privacy keys and stuff like that.
It's become much more, I would say, pasteurized. Like it was, you know, a rebel magazine back in the 70s and 80s, like in the early 90s.
Like, for example, one of the articles this month actually is the FCC and ham radio licensing. That's one article. There is a bunch of people who write into the magazine, which is great. Effecting digital freedom is another article.
Like there was stuff on how to run your own pirate radios, and then when the digital age started, it was things like it would be like how to run your own internet radio station, but at the same time, how to do it without how to encrypt and mask your signals so you could do it, like that sort of stuff, which they're like, oh, it's illegal. It's not illegal. They're showing you how to do it. Some of the earlier stuff was kind of illegal. It was like, again, it was how to tap into a phone pole and make phone calls for free and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Like that the early stuff from the magazine was literally just whistleblowing on freaking culture from the 60s and 70s when they were doing analog. Like, because remember, it started not just as a computer magazine. It was a hacker magazine, meaning analog hacking. So. Yeah.
Like I remember when I started reading, this was in the free Kevin Mitnick era of stuff, and it was like weird. Now, how I got into this is I was reading, I'd seen the movie Hackers in high school, and I found copies of 2600 at my local newsstand. There used to be, I think it was a chain. I don't think it's around anymore. At least I haven't seen them. But I think the place was called Weekly World News, and it was just a huge store of magazines.
Well, Weekly World News was the tabloid magazine.
No. Like this was.
You're thinking of like Gateway newsstands.
Yeah, something like that, but much bigger. Yeah. So I remember the guy who ran the place was a nice Middle Eastern gentleman, and I would always like, hey, do you have the latest 2600? He's like, yeah, sure, Mike, I got it right here. And every day or every couple months when the magazine came out, I would get it. And one of the reasons I like to buy it, I've only recently found a place to source it in Guelph, is I like payphones from around the world. And I know that's a really weird thing to say, but sometimes like on the back of the magazine, they will you can submit pictures of payphones that are still working and around the world.
Yeah. Ours are, by the way, the last two that I knew of in town are gone. Bell took them out.
I found one downtown. As far as I know, it still works. And if I remember right, and I don't know whether I did this, but I remember in the early aughts, so the early 2000s, if that term is correct, I do remember submitting a payphone on there because I was like, hey, this is a payphone in the middle of nowhere, rural Ontario. And obviously they didn't use it, but I thought that was really cool. Like I've always wanted to go to some of these hacker conventions just to learn. I know there was one device I was looking at, which is considered highly suspect if you get a hold of it, called a Flipper Zero. And I know just enough that it would probably work, but I also don't want to get caught with it. But you also might be asking, why would you need that? Mostly to clone Blair's car keys.
Well, the Flipper, the weird thing about the Flipper is more so than even in the States, I believe it actually is illegal to have on you in Canada. They were selling it on Amazon, and I think it just disappeared when it was determined that it truly was an illegal device.
There are versions you can get online that are it's basically the exact same device, but it has a different shell and a different name.
Well,
I'm not sharing that on air because
no, or it's missing a key component that you have to buy separately to install.
Yes, exactly. And there are legitimate uses for this. Like there are some people who use it to clone stuff. Like one advice I've seen from someone who did this is they work in IT, right? So they have they would carry different key cards that that RFID readers would use. Like if you go to 15 different buildings every day as part of your job, well, what if you lose your keys? So what this person did is they would clone their key card so they'd only have to carry, it was basically a key ring, and that's what they would do. Like, okay, well, fuck, I lost the plastic card, but at least I still got this. There's obviously tons of,
or it's used, like you said, it's used for testing your own infrastructures. It can be, there are situations where it is, and that is why you can get the components separately and you can assemble it yourself, because it can be used within an organization. But the idea is, I think legally, you can use it in the situation where you're in the private building, using it on yourself or using it at your work, and then you're supposed to disassemble it before you leave the building. Like you're not supposed to have an assembled device in public spaces.
Yeah, like it's something like people can use to steal Wi-Fi passwords. You can intercept packets from over a network and get people's information. Obviously, really high level tech shit if you know what you're doing. But yeah, and to round this back into the Z is for zombie thing. Interesting children books have been always a thing. I seem to recall somebody putting different covers onto books in my local library kind of growing up, but it was always like really stupid and like silly things. There's there's an entire group on Facebook, and I think it's called Your Childhood Ruined. And they take those old books that were like choose your own adventure or whatever, and they just put alternate titles on them, or they'll take like the Babysitter's Club and change the fonts and everything to make it say something really weird. Like my favorite example of this, it's a vampire and he's coming out of the sun, and the title's like, holy fuck, it's the sun and he's invulnerable, and it's like ridiculous. So yeah, I mean, children's books, leave them alone. But I do get it, because I have a Ghostbusters golden book that was gifted to me a couple years ago, and it just does the Ghostbusters first movie in the style of the golden books. Z's for Zombie, again, that's pretty clever. Rob Zombie's universe is, I think personally, a bit of an odd choice. If you had it from the entirety of horror fandom, like you're like F is for Freddy, J is for Jason, C is for Chucky. I'm trying to think who would be B. I'm trying to think here. I'm trying to think of a bad guy with B. I don't know. Fuck. A's
Barney
for
the dinosaur.
Art the clown would be one. So yeah, there are tons of options for you to take a look at and do that. So anyway, to say that, we have one more story this week, and this one Alex found with me, and I can definitely tell you it is an Alex story. This one comes courtesy of WESH.com. Florida woman arrested for aggravated battery with a Pringles can. Though this mugshot, this woman looks really familiar, which is kind of weird. An Orlando woman was
She looked like an ex of yours, maybe.
Not gonna lie, I did kind of glance. I'm like, you look familiar. An Orlando woman was arrested after attacking a man on Thursday, according to Orange County Sheriff's Office. Her weapon of choice was a Pringles can. Orange County Deputy Adams said he responded to a physical fight at a 7-Eleven gas station on International Drive in Orlando. Quote, I arrived at the 7-Eleven and eventually made contact with the victim, who was later identified by his Florida driver's license as Martin Milburn. Adams said Martin stated that the assailant, Shanika Sahar, struck him in the eye with a Pringles can and took off running. While speaking to Martin, I observed Martin had a significant cut on his right eyebrow below his eye, causing him to bleed. Orange County Fire and Rescue treated Martin's injuries on the scene. A 7-Eleven employee witnessed the incident and provided a sworn written statement. Quote, a male customer got hit in the head by a can of Pringles. All this guy was doing was informing me of another male customer that was lying down on the side of the building. The employee wrote in her statement. Serdal was located just south of the 7-Eleven by other Orange County deputies and was detained. A Pringles can was found with Serdal when she was located and arrested. She's now facing aggravated battery, according to deputies. Pictures of Martin's Industries and the Pringles can were taken as evidence. I'm not surprised you got cut by a Pringles can, because if you get hit on the at the right angle, the lid can be surprisingly sharp if you catch it the right way.
That is, another reason why maybe you should go with the Lay's stacked, because it's a little harder to use that rounded rubberized plastic as a weapon.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird. And trying to think if I've ever been assaulted by a Pringles can. Yes, actually, I've had one whipped at my head. Luckily, no lasting injuries that I can tell. Sorry, if you got that joke, great. But yeah, it's like it's so weird.
And hard. What's that? Homer Simpson when he went through the
crayon.
No. When it was he working Black Friday or something, and he breaks and he goes into the building and gets electrocuted. He's like, and hardly any brain damage.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's so weird. I mean, like, anything can be a weapon. The most unusual thing I've used as a weapon, I have two examples of this. One was a loaf of bread. So I was in a store. I was a teenager. Let's get that out of the way. This didn't happen like last week. And I'm with my friend Damien. And I grab a loaf of bread off the shelf. And I'm like, bread of loaf!
You started by saying you were friends with the son of the devil. So,
yeah.
No surprise there. Rant. Who names their kid Damien on purpose?
He's a pretty fun guy. I actually played Mech Warrior with them.
But what kind of parent goes, I'm going to name my kid the name of the son of the devil?
Someone who's cool and played D&D in the 1980s. No. So I hit my friend Damien and I literally shout, bread of loaf. And he turns around, what? And I crank him with the bread. Bread explodes everywhere. I pay for it.
Oh, God.
And then the other one was, those huge dog rope chew toys?
Okay, that is a weapon.
Be careful
with that.
So we're walking into this old Canadian store named Zellers.
Wait, did you hit him?
Like bad.
Like what is it? The old police weapon, the flapjack?
Well, yes,
do you remember
the place you want to get hit.
I don't think cops are allowed to use those anymore, are they?
No. So this guy,
like a hard piece of leather strap, they'd whip you to bust your nose up.
So my friend at the time, we're not friends anymore, obviously. So he's walking up in front of me, and I'm walking with my girlfriend at the time, and probably a few other people. Like, hey, check this out. So I grab the rope bone. And I'm like, hey, and he's like, what? Turn around. Why? Just trust me. Turns around and I whip the dog bone and I hit him right in the groin.
Okay.
Literally did the Homer Simpson falls over. Oh, my groin. He actually said that and I died.
Okay.
They kicked us out.
You were evil, but you weren't like a horrible person, because a horrible person would have noggined him with it, but then that's like full blown assault. I swear, I don't think the cops can be called if you just hit somebody in the balls. Isn't that like the rule? If it's funny, it's not assault.
Yes, Alex. It's on the goddamn books.
So see, if people, if you're planning, I'm not going to advocate for violence, but if you're mad at somebody and you want to hurt them, but you also don't want to go to jail, you got to kick him
as a clown.
You have them in a public place to be like, hey buddy, and he turn around, and you got to do like the Karate Kid crane kick right to the nuts, because then you have the argument of, oh, it was supposed to be a joke, and everybody around be like, yeah, he was doing the Karate Kid move. Like, if you do, and then in reality, make sure that you're wearing steel-toed boots, and you can really, mash up some damage there, and then the person be like, "Oh, my balls," and then that makes everybody laugh. And in reality, in your head, you're thinking, "Yeah, die," but you won't go to jail.
Oh, but just it was the reaction afterwards, because he literally grabbed it, did the knee tuck, and then fell over. Literally, like in The Simpsons, where it goes, man gets hits a groin by football. He actually did. He went, oh, my groin.
Well,
I just died.
Taking it back to this story, It's always Florida.
Yeah, always.
And I know it doesn't seem like it's a weird story. It's just that, man, it's not even a
Pringles can.
It's not even a clickbait title. That's just what happened.
Yeah, I mean, like, I swear to God, we could almost do an entire 2-hour Twig special if someone were to clip all the Florida stories that we've done over the last 7 years.
Pringles can. I mean, again, it wasn't a Lay's Stacks can because it wouldn't have left any damage. So,
exactly. So there you go.
Also, even though it's like Pringles cans are have the metal on the bottom and top, they have the paper sides. I don't think that they're waterproof. That's one cool thing about the Lay's Stacks can is you can be walking outside and pouring rain. As long as you leave the cap on that thing, it'll stay dry.
Exactly.
Not that you would want to, but I'm just saying, if you're somebody who likes to sit outside, maybe under the canopy and a nice chair, have like an iced tea and watch like thunderstorms, because that's what I like to do. I would definitely have a Lay's Stacks can. Have we sent enough Lay's Stacks to hopefully get sponsored yet? Like,
I could make an inquiry.
But you know what I mean? Like, you'd think, like, how come Pringles over the years hasn't changed? Like, it is, out of all the snack foods out there, I can't think of a more violent potato chip.
That should be their new slogan. So there we go, guys. That's going to do it for this edition of the Weird News only on ThisWeekInGeek.net. We're going to take a break here on the show with our final review, and this is going to be Alex taking a look at his initial thoughts on Assassin's Creed Shadows on the PC. We will have a extended review of this game coming up next week once you have had a chance to all visit the journey of Yasuke and Naoe next week. So yeah, stay tuned for that. But for now, here's Alex's review of Assassin's Creed Shadows on the PC. We'll be back, guys, right after this, only on ThisWeekInGeek.net.
We move unseen, shaping history.
Against corruption and brutality.
Through deception.
Through virtue.
Hope grows in shadows. A promise whispered.
A vow declared.
An allegiance
sealed in blood. From darkness,
a new dawn.
Justice
is forged in the shadows.
Alex, the producer here, and we have a review that's pretty long in the works, as we know this game has been delayed multiple times due to multiple outside factors. And I am talking about Assassin's Creed Shadows. Our friends over at Ubisoft sent review copies for multiple platforms so we could check it out and do some contrasting and comparing, and we'd all sort of, at the Twig crew here, get a chance to take a crack at it. And we're actually going to be doing a longer form review that's sort of an overview of the series so far, plus more spoilery type stuff a little bit here and there when it comes to the game itself. But this is an initial quicker review of my personal takes on it that isn't going to go into any spoilers, anything like story-wise or anything that way at all. This is more of an overall feel of the game, and I just wanted to say that I played it on the PC using the Ubisoft Connect app, which is their own customized launcher that, a lot of people have issue with because it's not on Steam, it's not on a standard platform, and it works. I had no problem getting it installed that way or anything. It's just, I can understand why people are upset that, there isn't a centralized, launcher for it. Who knows what's going to happen in the future, but getting that out of the way, there seems to be like irrational hate towards any launcher that isn't Steam. We've all seen what's happened with Epic Game Store over the last few years that way, but taking that out of the way and just getting to the the brass tacks of the game itself, it's a little over 100 gigs. It may change depending on how many updates and patches and so on and so forth. come out. Now, this is a game that did have an expansion pass planned, and when the game was pushed back multiple times, they decided to say, hey, no, anybody that pre-orders the game just gets the expansion as part of the game. And they haven't announced what the pricing will be, post-launch. So if you already pre-ordered it, you get it. If you haven't pre-ordered it, you'll have to wait till after launch and see what happens that way. No date as to when the expansion is coming, but sometime it says in 2025. So, Assassin's Creed Shadows is the big Assassin's Creed mainline game. First one, I would say that's a mainline since Valhalla was released, which is oh my god, 5 years ago now. We've had Mirage in 2023, which originally started as a DLC expansion pass or expansion pack for Valhalla, but then got expanded further beyond that to become a full game, and I really enjoyed it when it came out, and I felt that it was the perfect size of title for length and involvement, and it didn't feel bloated or anything. And with this new Shadows game, there was some concern that it was going to go back to being almost unruly large, and it doesn't get there. It is a large world, but we're not talking 100-hour gameplay. We're not talking emptiness that looks almost the same. And I know the argument can be made, hey, Valhalla, a lot of it was England, and that England itself, it doesn't have a ton of geographical differences being an island, but it did feel, Valhalla felt very bland when it came to the world. It was still an exciting game when it came out, and I think it's the highest selling game in the franchise, but visually, in my head, and I think most people's, they would realize that Japan is a much more interesting setting geographically, and it does a really good job here. There are going to be comparisons automatically to Ghost of Tsushima, and it's unavoidable. You can't do Shadows in a review in a bubble on its own without talking about Tsushima, being that was, at the time released, people were saying, oh, it's what Assassin's Creed should be doing. We've been wanting Assassin's Creed to go to Japan. We've wanted this for ages. And that game in itself is also, 5-6 years old, it having been in development well before that. And it was one of the best games of that generation, not just on PlayStation. And because of that, you can't just talk about Shadows without doing a review that does some comparisons. And, flat out, you got to say, it does not hold up as well as Shadows does not hold up as well as Ghost of Tsushima in terms of not sort of linear single player narrative AAA theatrical style experience. It is still a better game overall that way. What you have with Shadows is a little bit more freedom when it comes to the openness of how you're achieving things and how long it takes for you to get through the linear mission. You have the advantage of having two different players that you play as, Yasuke and Naoe. Naoe's story is a stronger story narratively, without going into spoiler details. That's saved for another time. But I ended up finding myself playing with Yasuke more once I decided that my gameplay style was more akin to a brute force attack and a little less of the actual assassin sneaking around stuff, especially as you're taking down castles. I found that his brute force techniques, once you build him the way that you need to build him, you can just obliterate things real well. Tons of accessibility options here when it comes to customizing your difficulty, customizing your visual experience, auditory, any discrepancies that you may have with, I guess, just the overall builds of these games. They've always gotten better and better and better when it comes to accessibility with each iterative title, and that's the case here as well. Now, audio-wise, playing it on PC was great. I was able to, there's no audio settings for headphones or anything. It just detects what your Windows is set to. So if you have a surround sound setup and your system is set to go into Atmos or DTSX, or even just normal discrete audio without using one of those codec settings, it just detects what you're doing and outputs it automatically to surround sound or whatever. And if you hook up headphones into a stereo mode, it automatically goes to stereo and adjusts your mix automatically. There is no settings you have to go into. It just does it. I've tested it. Visually, it is the best looking Assassin's Creed game. That comes at a major cost. I will say this, as of this recording, which is, I believe I have the day one patch, but before the day one patch, the build, I don't know when this was built, it was very hard to run. I have a newly built, in quotes new because the CPU was a generation old, but I have an i12 i7 12900K, which is a full class and generation above the recommended to play this game at 1440p or 4K. And I have 64 gigs of RAM. I have a NVIDIA RTX 3080 Ti. The 3080 is what's recommended for 1440p with their selective RT on. And, I have nothing else running in the background. It's a clean install. And this game did not perform remotely where it was supposed to. Now those settings that I mentioned, they mentioned a 3080, not a TI, but just a regular 3080 with an i5 11th gen Intel plus 16 gigs of RAM and NVMe direct storage, which I do have. I have the same class of speed drive that's in the PS5. I have a Samsung 980 Pro that it's installed to with direct storage working. Like it's all as optimized as can possibly be on my end, and I could not get above 30 frames per second at 1080p. It just would not work. You could take the RT settings, put it all the way to 0. Like, you can't turn it off. This game is the first game in the series that requires ray tracing. You cannot run this on a computer that does not have it. It just will not boot. Won't even turn on because the lighting and everything is forces ray tracing. But even putting that to the lowest setting, I could set my computer to 720p and still only get about 60, maybe even less than that, 50 FPS. So I had to force myself to play it at 30. And it would still, in certain areas, when the weather got crazy in the game, drop down to like 15 frames per second and become almost a slideshow. And this was with upscaling turned on and all these features that should be improving performance. It just could barely run. And this is with a multi-$1,000 computer. Now, day one patch, I believe, came to me a few days before release, and that made it so that I could play the game at 1080p at 60 with all the same settings. It boosted my performance to about 55 frames per second, but still nowhere near where it should be running when even all the all on their website and everything, all the recommended hardware specs say that I should be able to play this at 1440p. At the settings that they say, I still end up dropping to an average of about 42 frames per second, which is unacceptable. When comparatively, if I put on Mirage or Valhalla, which don't use ray tracing at all, I'm in the 120, 200 frames per second or more. And this is a similar engine. It's actually the same engine, just without the ray tracing. And looking at other games that have come out recently with the ray tracing implementations that are more optimized and just seem to be more well coded, I'm able to play pretty much every AAA title that ever comes out. That's been coming out, even ones that are visually more impressive and use more advanced features than what this game is. I can run that at 1440p absolute max settings with RT, no problem. Or 4K if I use DLSS upscaling. So their ray tracing implementation is just so heavy on the system. There's probably going to be patches more, because obviously there was a big performance patch that came just a couple of days ago that improved it, getting closer and closer to 60, but it's still at 1080p. If I upgrade my resolution to 1440 or 4K, I'm dropped back down below 30, and that's unacceptable. So performance-wise, if you're playing it on PC, if you've got like a 40 series GPU, if you're looking at the specs where it's like you need a 4090 to do 4K max, you're more likely going to have to be one of the people that have like a 50 series, 5090 or something, until they patch it. Now, because they're patching it quickly, you'll see that on mid or upper end last generation GPUs like mine, you should be able to play it comfortably. Just maybe lower your resolution a little bit, because I went and played a little bit on Birdman's PS5, And while the visuals were obviously taking a bit of a hit, the performance I found on console on PS5 was actually better than PC. So it wasn't a case of just the whole game is like this. It's the PC needs some work. That being said, I still had a lot of fun with it. Those are the technical issues I had to see here and get out of the way, but it's the best controlling game in the series. It has the most narrative focus since, probably the last maybe Syndicate as far as interesting storyline goes. There is going to be a lot more to do coming with the expansion for it. And I think it's been worth the wait when it comes to just the overall quality of the game. But we'll have to get into a longer form discussion later on as we do a big prototype special on the Assassin's Creed games and franchise as a whole with some spoilers. So if you're somebody, quickly that's been waiting for the PC version, you might have to wait for a patch or two till it gets to the performance that you'd like. But if you're playing it on console, I think you're going to have a pretty good time as is. But again, we'll get into the longer form review when we have the chance to discuss all the different versions that have come out with the rest of the crew later on. So as it stands, it's a recommend for me on console. On PC, it's a wait and see what the performance is like.
You have 937 messages, all of which are marked urgent.
All right, guys. Well, that is the kind of show it has been here on This Week in Geek.net. Like I said, we had to kind of delay this show just to make sure we got our review of Assassin's Creed out day of, so you can make an informed decision of what Alex thinks about Assassin's Creed Shadow. But like I said, guys, we are going to have an extended review and discussion of the franchise and Assassin's Creed Shadow in particular. Look for that next week. And like I said, it should be a very interesting discussion as we have played on 3 different platforms: Xbox Series X, PlayStation 5, and Alex has the experience on PC, so we'll be talking about that. As for stuff that's been recorded, as I mentioned off the top of the show, I've recorded a show with Ken and Dave. We talked about Saturday morning cartoons, and then we also talked about franchise fatigue, so stuff like Fast and the Furious, Mission Impossible, Jurassic Park, but also some franchises that deserve a little bit more love. Dave had a really interesting suggestion. I don't want to spoil it, but look for that in the coming days and weeks ahead. This week we are recording, or actually no, next week we're recording, but we're in the process of getting ready. We're going to be taking a look at remakes again, but new versus old. And Aaron suggested this, and I thought it was a really cool idea. So we're going to be doing Total Recall, the one from 2012 and the original one from 1990. So we'll be taking a look at that. And Aaron also proposed the original Night of the Living Dead from 1968 and the remake by Tom Savini in 1990. And I have a lot of thoughts about that. Most of them are all good, actually. So yeah, we'll be taking a look at that. Me, Ken, and Dave, and Adam are working on more loose cannons. I know as of this recording, Dave just finished up his Sober Taxi that he was helping out in Ohio for anybody who was enjoying St. Patrick's Day. He was being good guy Dave and helping people out. Also, his parents just retired, so big thanks to Dave's parents for serving your community for like 30 plus years. Congratulations on that. We're also working, me and Liam are preparing for another big special that me, Dave, and Ken are doing. We're watching the entirety of the Lord of the Rings trilogy, or the entire Lord of the Rings franchise. So far we've seen War of the Rohirrim, the Rankin Bass, Hobbit. We watched the Lord of the Rings movie I didn't even know existed, and we just found a copy. We were able to source this locally of The Return of the King that came out in 1980. We're gonna watch that probably tonight. And yeah, I've got a bunch of stuff for review. I have a couple Lord of the Rings books, very, very topical. I have 2 Star Trek books from Aaron, had just worked on the Star Trek technical manual, also with Michael Demiscu and Jim Johnson. I did not have a hand in this book, so I will be able to review it as unbiased as possible. What else do I got for review? I think that's what I know. I got some stuff coming from Warner Brothers real soon. I also have WWE 2K, whatever it is this year. I just haven't had a chance to install it because I've been in Japan for what feels like forever. I don't know, Alex, what do you got coming up in the next little bit?
Well, we have Earth versus Soup. The movie is Beginning of the End from 1957 coming this week. We've also got a loose cannon for that you guys had recorded on the Now You See Me franchise.
Oh, that was a lot of fun to do.
Beyond that, I'm working on a few games and a few products to review. I can't talk about everything right away, but just know that there's some cool stuff down in the pipeline. And over the next few weeks, I should be planning to edit and get some more of the stuff scheduled. The idea is going to be basically we have a regular show, on Mondays, hopefully sometimes Tuesdays, depending on when the embargoes and reviews. Thursdays are going to be Earth vs. Soups. And then the idea will be basically every other week we'll have an episode of something else coming out, whether it be like on a Wednesday or Sunday or something, depending on the programming. We'll have either Loose Cannon, Twig Random Access Memories, Sunday Funnies, or a Prototype, and then
Future Imperfect,
or Future Imperfect as well. One of those, and we'll cycle them in. So the idea is, we may be recording stuff now, but you may not hear it till mid-spring sort of thing. But if something is very topical, very important to be released right away, then of course we're just going to break into the programming schedule and release it. But for the most part, you can expect an extra episode every other week, plus. Within a month, usually we're probably going to have another review show, like a Turd or Treasure episode, where there's a few things that we don't want to make sure that we don't wait too long to release that, but they might not make it into the regular show. So there's generally going to be 2 to 3 episodes per week is the idea of what we're having of different things come, instead of like the constant we were having 3 or 4 things every single week. That eventually you run out of content real quick.
Yeah, exactly. So it's nice to be able to record evergreen stuff. I know Dave, Ken, and I are working on the Aladdin movies. I just have to find the time. I didn't expect, as of right now, my current playtime in Assassin's Creed Shadows is over 80 hours because I'm doing a lot of the side quests. So my week has been really unforgiving, and I'm looking forward to being able to sleep after this review so I can record fun stuff. I can watch more movies for funsies. So yeah, it's going to be a good little while here on the show. Like I said, having Dave and Ken, and now bringing on Adam on board has been a real pleasure. And I don't know whether you've heard Adam, but he's a guy that I work with here in town, Adam F. Donaldson. He's the Guelph Political Podcast, also does stuff on CFRU with End Credits, stuff like that. A wonderful movie show. If you go on Spotify, look up the show End Credits. I did a show with him talking about reboots, and we also talked about Captain America and Brave New World. We talked about that and sort of the soft reset for the MCU status quo. And that was a very fun conversation. So you can find that over on Spotify. Look for that. I guess the only other thing to mention is I am going to try and do some stuff on Patreon this week as I prepare for con season. That hopefully I'll be able to get out and do a lot more stuff. Literally, when we were recording this, I signed up for a Call of Cthulhu game on the Saturday night, so that should be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to doing that. And I'm going to be playing in a Beast Wars game with another guy who I'm pretty sure is the person I play with every year. We do Transformers. We've done it for 3 years.
Oh, that'll be cool.
Yeah, it's not often I get a chance to be on the other side of the table, and then I'm running D&D for 3 nights, from the Friday from 7 to 11, Saturday from 2 to 6 p.m., and then Sunday from 2 to 6 p.m. as well. More often than not, we have the loudest table in the university because I'm very theatrical. And I think we've got some friends going there. I think Cassie might be selling dice there. So hopefully I'll get a chance to run into her. And I know next weekend, Alex, I want to say we run into Justin from Terrible Warriors is going to come up and say hi and hello. So hopefully we'll get a chance to hang out with him very, very soon. Well, we should have a report because I think we're playing the old lady game. And my wife just delivered to me Big Mac salad that she makes from a home recipe. So I'm looking forward to that. So that's going to bring this show to a conclusion. So like I said, guys, be sure to be checking out our website next week for our Assassin's Creed Shadows long form discussion. But for now, you have a informed reviewer to give his thoughts on that. And I guess with that, for This Week in Geek.net, we have been
Alex, the producer.
I've been Mike the Birdman saying, be excellent to each other. We'll catch you guys again next week, right here on thisweekingeek.net.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
Thanks for listening to this episode of This Week in Geek. Hungry for more? Check out our website at thisweekingeek.net. You can subscribe to the podcast, browse our Twitter and Instagram, and leave your thoughts on today's topics. If you'd like to give us some feedback, send us an email at feedback@thisweekingeek.net. Tune in next time, and remember,
lower your shields and surrender your listenership.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Thank you for your cooperation. Good night.